Hello, everyone. This is Pernilla on her YouTube channel. And today is a little bit of a different day with my YouTube because I have invited a new friend who is really an old friend on, and I'll share with you why. We both were part of a radio show, I think about 10 years ago, called Awakened Radio, and we both had our own radio channel, but we never really met. We became Facebook friends, as we all do these days. And then Haseena, who's here, Haseena Patel, she posted something recently on Facebook, and it caught my attention because she talked about unbecoming who we're not, and that there is no supposed to be. And it was really that sense of living now without all the identities and beliefs and limitations that most of us grew up in. And so I commented and said, "You speak my language." And then Haseena contacted me back and said, "Hey, let's have a Zoom call." So we did, and out of that, I just felt inspired to invite Haseena Patel to my first conversation on my channel here. So welcome, Haseena. So nice to
Oh,
be here with you. And yeah, if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit.
thank you so much, Pernilla. Um, I love what technology can do because here I am in South Africa and you across the world, and we get on a Zoom and discover that we have so many threads that we pick up on, see in the same way, and we're able to learn from each other. So, yes, I'm from a province called KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. And it was just wonderful to meet on Facebook, and to have these evolutionary conversations that really matter these days in our world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That sparks my aliveness,
Yeah.
And Haseena, you wrote a book. Maybe you can just share the title and briefly what prompted you.
Sure. So my book, The Truth Walker's Journey, The Unbecoming of Who You Are Not. And that was birthed into the world last year. And interestingly, um, it was a journey, it was a 10-year journey of mine um, where I learned to unbecome who I was not and live my deepest truth, live in alignment. And I think that's what we want. We all want that for ourselves. And we want that, or we get to want that for one another, even when we disagree, even when we have differing points of view, to be able to come to the collective table and just have conversations and learn from one another and share points of view where we can say, well, I didn't think of it that way. And I know what both of us resonated about when you said you read my post. It was because I had said, well, let's, well, I'm paraphrasing now, but let's just dispense with the supposed tos. Why are we supposed to do this? Why are we, as entrepreneurs, supposed to hustle and be salesy and buy into the numbers game? um yes, things work, but we get to bring ourselves to the table. And that is the difference in what works for us, what feels comfortable for us. So it was about that. Let's just unbecome who we are not, and we get to experience one another just in the, like you say, Pernilla, in the now, just from one truth to another truth, and just being who we are. So I think that's what really resonated with both of us. And yeah, it's been wonderful getting on Zoom with you and thinking, oh, I get to meet someone across the world, and I love doing that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I love the title, Unbecoming Who We Are Not. I mean, does it get any more clear than that? But of course, the process is like, how do I do that when I don't even know who I am and I think I am who I not am not? So we're kind of in that conundrum because we are pulled into the collective world belief that we are separate from the divine. We have this separate sense of I that needs to be out there struggling to survive, to be successful, and all that. And we don't know really how to unhook from that. And I think that is part of the journey that we're all on. Is I talk about, it's like we're holding here, and we need to learn to let go of that, and then this energy becomes available to find out who we truly are. And it's the unhooking. We don't even know what to unhook from because it's also unconscious, right? So in my world, I have used self-love as the balm to soften the grip, so it's safe enough and it's okay. And then you need to live in that space where you really don't know who you are, which can be uncomfortable. And then little by little there's more energy available to put your attention on even the question, who am I then if I'm not any of that? And you also had a little comment in that post that you got out of the box, and I think you left the box behind, right? Because we live in boxes. It's true. It's like, this box is my identity, and you better not touch it or try and change me because this is who I am. So how did you get out of your box, and how did you even know you were in a box?
Such a great question. And it's so big for any of us to think about getting out of the box, dissolving the box. It doesn't exist anymore. I think it begins when we start to observe ourselves. So for me, it was just tuning into myself, and we all get to do this. We just don't give ourselves space for this. So if you're living a life where you don't feel like it doesn't feel like you're pleasing someone else, whether it's about wearing makeup or how your hair looks, or what you're willing to do within your job, or what you're willing to do in a group, culture, religion, all of that. But ultimately, the reason we don't make time for it is we don't like feeling that I don't really feel happy right now. There's something that it just doesn't fit, or that normally the feeling is I don't fit in, like I feel left out, and that's the origin point, and it feels like darkness. It feels like um we don't matter. And yet that is where the light starts to or you start to find your inner light, because once you see that, you start to observe yourself. Well, how do I feel? I don't feel good. And that may be just the basic thing you notice. Well, why don't I feel good? And the step of courage that is just standing in your light is saying, why do I need to fit in? Why do I need to do what someone else thinks is good for me?
Mm.
That's where the self-love piece that you're talking about comes in. So if we just notice, and then we start having these micro acts of self-love, like, I want to eat this, I don't want to eat that. I like my hair like this, not like you want it to be, and that's what I'm going to do. And they're just little micro things And it's almost like if you had an itch on your skin, a little agitation. And then, but you start coping with that and develop an immunity, and it becomes so much easier to align and to see, well, what am I like? How can I get to know myself? And you bypass the point of discomfort until you unbecome who you are not, and it starts becoming a default. It's got to feel right,
Yeah.
and you're more than halfway there. And once we start with that, then you know we've already started stepping out of the box, probably on a daily basis, until it's really there's a box, because we've developed that self-love. But self-love can be uncomfortable, and I think that was my journey. What I've just described was my journey. um, and I loved myself enough to notice, well, this is a journey I'm on. Why didn't I notice how I was feeling? And how can I do that? And from there, it was just, it's never a straight journey. I don't feel that way. But evolution has a climb to it, it has a spiral journey. And it's just brilliant to be there.
Well, you know that I'm so glad I invited you on here, because you bring a flavor to what I'm talking about, but a different flavor. And I just feel like, for even for myself and for my listeners, that it feels like an expansion is happening in the awareness of what we have been unconscious to. It just felt like you added a dimension to it that people will go, oh yeah, yeah, I do that. Like, oh yeah, I'm not really happy. Just those little flavors that will make us stop for a moment and go, wow, why am I not happy? And for the most part, they go, oh, I'm not happy. Let me take a drink or smoke or chocolate or whatever. But if we can stay with that, right? And that's when we start to be able to be what's it called, self introspective, whatever it's called. And that's when the journey really starts, right? Then you start seeing, oh, I'm living in a box, but everybody else is living in a box, and it feels safe to live in a box, because that's a big part of it too, right? That it feels safe to be what others want me to be, because we may have memories as a child that it was not safe to be different or to be ourselves. And then we became a whole different identity, ended up in a very tight box. And now, like, but how do you get out of that? So having these conversations is kind of showing that there is a way out of it. We got out of it, and this is how we started. Yeah, very, very beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate your sharing that.
Thank you. It's funny how one never knows in the moment how a conversation will unfold,
Yeah,
even the words out of one's own mouth. It's you hear it differently and you express it differently.
yeah, yeah. But that's also what we're talking about, right? It's just being your unique sovereign self and
Mhm.
finding out what is that really. So when there is a safe space to start expressing that, then we can start finding ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they often say that trauma that happens in relationship needs to heal in relationship, and probably all trauma happened in relationship. So being with others where we can learn that it is okay to be myself, that it's okay to not be perfect, to be okay that to not be spiritual, all that stuff that can just like be seen, and it's like, that's actually okay with me when you sit with somebody, and then you can learn it in yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's I love what you said about being safe and feeling safe. And it's not so much being safe, it's a lot about feeling safe. And there are people who would say, because of trauma, because of, you mentioned relationship, whether it's the relationship with yourself that you don't trust, or whether it's the relationship with someone in your midst who really isn't physically safe to be around or emotionally safe. The thing about being safe is wanting that external safety, and we all deserve it. I don't like the word deserve, but it is our birthright to be safe and feel safe. But having said that, it's a pseudo safety when we look for external safety, because no matter what the situation is, the thing is we get to be safe within. And when we have that, then we build what people call courage. And it's so much easier to be in alignment and have that clarity of mind. Like, what in this moment feels good for me to do? How does it feel good for me to be? And just having that safety within. And we get to feel safe within our bodies. We get to feel safe within our minds if we choose. And that's why it's so important, I feel, to make a space within one's mind where it's just it's not mental chatter the whole time. Just a lot of people use meditation or connection in that's one of the things I teach, and connection with um oneself, or whatever you want to call that divinity within, however you believe it. And when one has that clarity of mind comes, and then you start creating the space to explore your own safety, because you are your own safe space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Meditation, mindfulness is so important. It's like creating that space. I've just the last few YouTubes have been about really that there is only now, right? That we have to come in into this. I call it now the bubble of now. So it's stepping back from the doing, the busyness, the mind, and then there is a space here. It's always here, and that is where all our wisdom resides and our natural expression. But we have to be able to come into that silent space, and that can be hard when there is a lot of mind chatter, right? When there is a lot of identification with survival, with the world. So I would say it's not an easy journey for most of us. It is it's hard work in a way, but once we really want that more than anything, then it's a lot easier. Then there's really no choice in it anymore. So I think it's also coming to the place where you say, I'm done with that box. I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know, but I know one thing, and I'm done with that darn thing. I want something else. And there's an energy in that, and that energy will move us through these things.
Yes, that's really beautiful. A beautiful thing that we already have everything we need to move through to living our deepest truth, to unbecoming who we're not, and just feeling good, because we know that what we're doing, who we're being, it feels like who we are at our deepest levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's such a wonderful uh feeling, is how I can describe it, just knowing that.
Yeah. And finding that feeling, right? In my book called Imagine Being Kind to Yourself, I have a chapter about what is natural and what is normal. And the normal is, of course, the norm that we have tried to fit into, where the natural is something we have to go inside. And it could be like Do I want chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Do I want, vegetables or fruit? It's finding that alignment where you feel good, where you feel a rightness. And that is to me also the door to the divine, because then you relax into your own flow. And
Yeah.
that informs you. And it always does. It's just that we haven't listened to it. Yeah. Yeah. Hasina, if we can also take a little time, I don't want to make it too long today, but I want to just give a little time also to talk about, what is it like? We have already talked about it, but what is it like to live without the box? If you want to share a little bit about that, because there must be a reason, there is something that makes it very attractive. And I agree. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yes, and let me just say that it's almost like, as much as we're talking now about there being no box, um, the more we realize, or the more we get to a space where we're living deeper and deeper in our truth, we realize when we thought there was no box, we were in maybe a broader box, maybe one with more space, but we were in a box, and we just keep expanding until really we can, we know that we've walked out of the box. Um, and that we're just comfortable being us, but it's a feeling of freedom. And I don't think I never feel that it's a permanence. It's always in the moment. The moment when the same feelings tend to surface and you witness yourself creating the same energy. Like if somebody um, behaves in a certain way, and you notice a fear within yourself or an anger reaction, you may even see that, oh, I'm not reacting as I did, but you notice within yourself how you feel. And with how you feel, those emotions are an indicator. And you're possibly creating the same energy, not as intensely. You can feel your growth, that, wow, I don't, nobody would even know how I'm feeling, but you can feel it inside. And in that moment, you realize, okay, I'm back there, but that's not reality. And come back to the now. And just that coming back to the now is the freedom, is the no box. So I guess, let me say this another way, that we notice ourselves that we've been in a box, that we've stepped out. We think we're out of it, and then one day one of the people from our childhood, or colleagues, or someone we've known for a long time, says something to us, and we notice ourselves responding or reacting or feeling less intensely how we felt, but still that a little bit of that feeling is within.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fear, maybe it's anger, maybe it's whatever. And that's when we realize, okay, this still has me.
Yeah.
I haven't stepped into my freedom. And that is a wonderful moment, because it's not a failure. It's that observance is just a moment of awakening. And then we get to step into our freedom in that moment and say, you know what, it's okay. Knowing that is stepping into my freedom. And the next time that something like that happens, you probably notice it doesn't even draw a reaction. You feel like you're living in a different world, parallel universe or something.
I so agree. I just love having this conversation. I know I said it before. It's you just use this little bit of a different vocabulary. Like when you say, just notice it. And that's why I say, if there's self-love, you will not judge yourself for it. Right? You'll just notice it and just like, oh wow. And if you're still in the old box, you might be upset with yourself because you're doing it again. And that just means you will stay in the box longer. right? Instead of just noticing it without an emotional judgment or something. And it's like, oh, and there's a lot of freedom in that. So there's all these little steps on the way that when we start noticing them, then you actually start noticing that you are becoming freer and freer. Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah.
living in a nest, that freedom, that is also for me, it's like living in this now moment, because that does not have any rules or restrictions or supposed to's. It is so fresh and alive in itself. And it really is. It, to me, it has becoming more a bubble, that it's just this now moment where you're just like available to see what it is, not what it should be or shouldn't be. And so we have to let go of those shoulds, right? Or supposed
Yeah.
to's. That's a huge part of leaving the box behind. Yeah. If you got a
And
box in your mail, it would say should, or it's like, ooh, I don't want that anymore. Yeah.
it is. And, bringing it to something tangible. So I think maybe it was 2 years ago. Wow, time goes very fast. So it was, I think it was 2 years ago, or maybe it was a year ago, who knows. Um, I colored my hair pink, and I wanted a little bit of, pink in my hair. Um, However, not having the experience, what I asked for resulted in a whole head of pink hair. So much so that um, you know, even my mom had said, "What on earth did you do to your hair?" You know, being honest with me, saying, "It really, do you not want to color it back?" And I said, "No, this is a wonderful social experiment." And the first thing was, why is maybe just brown hair acceptable or more acceptable than pink hair? And let's see the reactions. And there I also discovered it's about how we see it. When it's not really about whether your hair is pink or brown or whatever it is.
Mm.
When you carry yourself in the truth of knowing,
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with myself, everyone starts being okay with you and starts supporting you, and it's awesome to see these reactions. So now that's making it tangible, that I looked at, this is very interesting, because people can change the box at any time. Maybe one time it's got a red lid and blue sides, and then they decide it's not acceptable. And really, there is no them, there's no us and them, but we feel
Yeah.
that society's decided this is not acceptable. This is now what's acceptable. So then people fit to a new box. And I realized I'm past that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be in that journey of pandering to anything that's where the supposed to's come in.
Yeah.
And thanks to my pink hair. And now it's actually blue, but it looks gray on Zoom, it seems. And it's great.
Again, when you say when you're okay with it, whether it's pink hair or whatever, that changes people's reaction to you. But if you come out and want to fight them and say, no, it's okay, it's because you haven't fully embraced the okayness inside. And of course, that's going to be matched on the outside. And it also reminds me of so much of what's going on in the world, where people want to state, they almost want to fight for being different. and they color hair, they change their gender and all that stuff, which is it's a choice. But when they want to make others wrong for them doing that and get into fights and discussions, they're not free inside. They have not embraced their own change yet. Maybe never, I don't know, but it made me think of that when you said, "No, I'm pink, pink hair," and then people will change because it is our own reaction, really, that we get an anti-reaction to. So yeah. So the freedom that you're talking about, it's kind of really freedom to be fully ourselves, no matter what. Even if we make mistakes, we can be okay with that. We can correct them. We don't need to hold it against ourselves or others. There's space for all of us to make mistakes, and we do. Let's be fair, right? But we don't need to defend it, but we can just be open to moving to the next level of that, or undo the mistakes or whatever. But it doesn't come from a judgmental place towards ourselves. It comes from an acceptance of that moment, and then of course it can change from there much, much easier. Yeah. Yeah, wow, what a great conversation, Hasina. I would love to continue, but I think I want to just keep it at not too long. If we want to take it up at some other time, we can. But is there anything you would like to say at the end? And you feel free to just say how people can maybe find more about you or your book or something like that if they want to learn more about how you express yourself in the world. Please.
Thank you, Pernilla. Well, it's just been such a joy to have a conversation. I love these evolutionary conversations where we can all grow and, just it's wonderful to be able to sit at the table and be in community. I think that's what we need in our world, community. So yeah, to answer your question, if people want to get hold of me, they could easily just, my book is called The Truth Walker's Journey, The Unbecoming of Who You Are Not. And it is on Amazon in, around the world. And they're welcome to, contact me. And obviously, this will be on your YouTube, so they'd be able to find me, even comment on your YouTube to be able to connect. I'm very happy to do this.
I will put your website or your book name in the description. So
Okay, yes, that will be great. Thank you.
cross-pollinate with truth people, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's a great time for truth in our world right now. We
Yeah.
need it. Truth and community.
Yeah. And the normalizing of what we're talking about.
Yes.
That feels also like a very important part where people can resonate with this if they feel alone with these kind of understandings or challenges, that to normalize being free, normalizing not living in a box and being completely different, normalizing the um, the realization of actually being light or being divine and not hide it anymore. So those are the things that I feel inspired, why I like to share with others, where we can normalize what is natural. Yeah.
Yeah, and talk about it. Um, we seem to have an epidemic in our world of not talking about it, where we just politely use politically correct terms. We condemn everyone who doesn't feel that way and doesn't use the politically correct terms, but we won't talk about it and say, well, what's the fear here? What's the feeling? But why do you feel like this? and hear them so that we can all be heard. And just this deep listening is so important.
Absolutely. Well, may we have started a new movement to normalize that. I'm sure there's others who do it too, but in this moment, right, we have just put in a little pebble of permission to live outside of the non-existent box and find out what that's like, right? There's some excitement in that too. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, my dear, thank you so much. I'm glad we did this, really. And
Thank you.
I hope everybody who is listening also enjoys this. And I'll be back with more on my YouTube channel and maybe more with Haseena. We'll see how all this wants to unfold in this now moment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Pernilla.